Hello, brains! Most of the world is built in a way that works for neurotypical brains because most people are neurotypical. As such, there are a lot of environments, products, systems, and strategies that might work great for people without ADHD, but for those of us with ADHD, not so much. We get used to failing a lot in a world not built for our brains and blaming ourselves for that failure, when really, a lot of the time, it's that the thing wasn't at all ADHD friendly. It wasn't very compatible with the way our brains work. So one of the ways our community looks out for each other is by sharing info on whether or not something is ADHD friendly. According to our How to ADHD dictionary, something that is ADHD friendly, adjective, is something that is easier for those with ADHD to use or engage with well. Often, something is considered ADHD friendly when it reduces or removes barriers we would otherwise face. For example, this toothpaste is more ADHD friendly than this toothpaste because we can't lose the cap. Bins that are see-through and or labeled are more ADHD friendly because it makes it easier to stay organized and find what we're looking for. DocuSign is more ADHD friendly than printing, signing, and scanning a form because we don't have to have remembered to buy printer paper or a printer. But doesn't that make it easier for everyone? Yes! Yes, it does. Often what makes things easier for someone with ADHD makes things easier for those who don't have ADHD too, which is the thought process behind universal design, designed for people with challenges, and it benefits everyone. In the case of ADHD, that usually means lowering demand on executive function. Everyone has limits to their executive function, how well they can stay focused in a distracting environment, how much information they can hold in their head at the same time, how accurately they can predict how long something will take to do. And executive function is impaired in ADHD brains, so one more step to remember or more distractions to filter out, or an unforgiving timeline can sometimes mean the difference between being able to do the thing and not. So whereas something being a bit harder on executive function might be an inconvenience or annoyance for someone without ADHD, for those with ADHD, it can create issues of accessibility. So in that sense, ADHD friendly is really everyone friendly. It's ADHD accessible. Kind of like having curb cutouts creates accessibility for wheelchair users, but benefits people who are wheeling their luggage too. Another way of thinking about it, it's like providing a step stool for someone who's short. Everyone can use it, but some of us really need it, at least when something is on a tall shelf. For those of us with ADHD, more stuff is on the tall shelf. Usually tasks that are lengthy, repetitive, or boring, or that we have a wall of awful around. And even small changes, reducing the number of distractions, breaking long projects or tasks down into shorter, more doable steps, creating checklists, making instructions clear and concise, having another person there to support can make a big difference. But something can also be ADHD friendly because it fits well with our strengths. I'm really curious and like to Google things a lot. I actually got fired for that once. I was volunteering as a receptionist for a yoga studio, and apparently I wasn't supposed to be on the computer that much. But now, I have a job where Googling stuff I'm curious about is what I do. I get to learn for a living, and then share what I learn, and I get to use my creative strengths for that. Divergent thinking is key to creativity, and those with ADHD tend to be better at that. An example of products that play to natural ADHD strengths are bike chairs. They tap into our natural desire to move while we work, in a way that's good for our health. What ADHD friendly doesn't mean? Something being ADHD friendly doesn't mean it will automatically work for everyone with ADHD. There are a lot of ways ADHD impacts things, so there are a lot of things that can make something ADHD friendly. According to cognitive scientist Deirdre Kelly, that includes factors such as how efficient it is, how engaging, how error tolerant. Something being ADHD friendly in one way doesn't mean it's ADHD friendly in all the ways. Also, there are differences in the ways ADHD brains work. There are different presentations, different levels of severity, different impairments in executive function, and different co-occurring conditions such as learning disabilities, anxiety, or depression. So even an ADHD friendly workplace might require individual accommodations, and an ADHD friendly product might not work for someone right away. It might need tweaking. In other words, individual needs and individual results may vary. So if you're the person with ADHD, it's helpful to be curious. What would make this not just ADHD friendly, but your ADHD friendly? I've linked to some resources in the description below. Let me know in the comments what makes something ADHD friendly to you and what difference it makes. I know for me, the difference is huge. Thank you to my brain advocates and all my Patreon brains for supporting not only videos like this, but also helping us create resources for ADHD brains and those who work with ADHD brains to use. We're working with Deirdre now to develop a rubric to evaluate whether or not something is ADHD friendly that is in beta testing now. Check it out over on Patreon. The goal is it will eventually be available for everyone. When it's done, I'll add a link below. Like, subscribe, click all the things, and I will see you next video. Bye, brains.